Day 37 of the war with Hamas, and the IDF has captured key Hamas posts in central Gaza City, killing 150 terror operatives. The Israeli army is now tightening the noose around the terrorist stronghold with heavy fighting near Shifa hospital. More from ILTV's Steve Leibovich.
Heavy fighting is reported in the vicinity of Shifa Hospital, where Israel believes Hamas's main headquarters are located. Special forces are reportedly operating in the area, and armored forces are closing in.
אלה שנמצאים, המחבלים, במרתפים שמתחת לשיפה, שומעים הערב היטב את רעם שרשראות הטנקים, את הדחפורים שנוגחים בשטח, הם שומעים מתחת לאדמה, שומעים ורועדים מפחד.
Thousands of Palestinians are fleeing from around Shifa and joining a growing exodus to the south of the Strip, with Hamas losing control above ground in northern Gaza. The IDF said that in recent days its 401st Armored Brigade led an assault on the so-called Badr outpost, the main base of Hamas's Al-Shati battalion. In another raid, the IDF battled Hamas gunmen at the Blue Beach Resort on Gaza City coast. Some 30 terror operatives were holed up at the hotel firing anti-tank missiles at the forces. It was revealed that the terrorists used the hotel rooms as shelter, as well as for planning attacks above and below ground.
צה"ל החל להשתמש גם בשיטות חדשות בימים אלה לטיפול במי שנמצא במנהרות וגם לחיסול של מנהרות. זה ילך וישתפר בימים הקרובים. כל כוחותינו עובדים על מנת למצוא פתרונות ייחודיים למשימות האלה. עובדים ומצליחים.
Israel has now formalized and broadened localized pauses in fighting, creating humanitarian corridors through which civilians can escape from the areas of fighting in northern Gaza.
הדבר הזה קורה בצורה מסודרת לאוכלוסייה שנמצאת בעזה, באופן כזה שהוא לא רק שהוא לא מפריע ללחימה, הוא משפר את מצבנו, כי בסוף שירדו כבר למעלה יותר מ-100,000 אנשים, רק ביומיים האחרונים, יורדים דרומה, זה מאפשר לנו להילחם ולהתמקד במחבלים.
Though rocket fire from Gaza has lessened dramatically over the course of the war, volleys were fired at central Israel from Gaza over the weekend. 2 people were injured by falling rocket shrapnel after Iron Dome interceptions in Tel Aviv.
In a crucial update, Israeli spokesmen have officially confirmed that Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City is not a target, emphasizing its status as a safe zone for civilians amid ongoing clashes with Hamas terrorists in the vicinity. And ILTV's Devo Klein reports.
The east side of the hospital is open on El Wade Street for the safe pass of Gazans who wish to leave the hospital. We're speaking directly and regularly with the hospital staff. The staff of the Shifa hospital has requested that tomorrow we will help the babies in the pediatric department to get to a safer hospital. We will provide the assistance needed.
In a crucial update, Israeli forces have officially confirmed that they are not targeting Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City. The IDF spokesman emphasized on Saturday that while clashes with Hamas terrorists are ongoing in the vicinity, the hospital remains a safe zone for civilians. Colonel Moshe Tetro, representing COGAT, the agency of the Israeli Defense Ministry dedicated to coordinating civilian affairs with the Palestinians, also made a reassuring statement in Arabic.
بالآخر ساعة أنا بسمع بالأخبار إنه في حصار وفي استهداف في مستشفى الشفاء. بدي أقول بشكل واضح هذا كذب. في اشتباكات بين قوات الجيش وبين عناصر تاع حماس المجرم الإرهابي حوالين المستشفى. ما في استهداف في المستشفى وما في حصار. الجانب الشرقي تاع مستشفى الشفاء مفتوح. شارع الوحدة مفتوح. كمان اليوم في أي لحظة أي واحد بده يطلع ويحور.
These clarifications are emphasizing the importance of accurate information during such critical moments. Residents in the area are urged to take note of the designated safe route and make use of it for their safety.
Day 37 of the war in Gaza, and joining us now is Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs Research Fellow and journalist Yoni Ben Menachem. Yoni, day 37 of the war in Gaza, about 2 weeks into the ground fighting. The IDF is deep inside northern Gaza and closing in on the stronghold in the Shifa hospital. How far along would you say we are to the stated goal of ending Hamas rule in Gaza?
I think the army is working very well in the north of Gaza, and everything is according to the plans. The IDF is sticking to its plans and fighting very thoroughly against the military infrastructure of Hamas, destroying tunnels, destroying strongholds, and killing the terrorists of Hamas, ISIS. This is a very important step, and I think that in the future we will see also the IDF moving to the center of the Gaza Strip and to the south of Gaza Strip to dismantle the military infrastructure of Hamas.
You know, over the weekend, reports came out that spoke about 1 year of fighting. Do you know where this estimate came from, this number, 1 year or something, that none of our generation has actually experienced, you know, in recent years? Where does this number come from?
It comes from the new phenomena of the tunnels, these horrible tunnels, big tunnels underground. We're talking about something that the IDF did not know before, tunnels in the length of 500 kilometers. Just imagine the amounts of cement and iron to build such a big complex of tunnels instead of building hospitals and schools for the people of Gaza. This is what Hamas did with about $1 billion that he got from Qatar. So in order to destroy this huge infrastructure, it will take a few months up to a year.
Yes, now Israel has suffered casualties in the fighting. Hamas has suffered many more losses, as we see. How badly hurt is Hamas? Are there any signs that they could soon collapse as a fighting force, at least above the ground, not in the tunnels?
No, we have, the IDF has very big achievements, but we cannot talk yet about the collapse of the rule of Hamas. Apparently, a lot of terrorists fled to the south of Gaza, and in the south of Gaza, we have 3 Hamas brigades that the IDF still has to dismantle and maybe part of the military leadership of Hamas. So this is a long fight, but the army is doing well. It is on the right path.
Now, you know, going to the northern border, Hezbollah by now is teasing way too much, injured 6 civilians severely on the northern border earlier today. How much more can the northern border take before real action is taken and not just, you know, firing back?
Israel has its own priorities, and right now it is containing the situation, the escalation by Hezbollah in the north in order to finish the job in Gaza Strip and dismantle Hamas infrastructure. So I think Israel will continue in this direction until it will be sure that it has done enough in Gaza Strip, and then it will handle very seriously Hezbollah aggression.
Yes, of course, we see they're teasing, as we said, way too much there on the northern border. Yoni, thank you so much for joining us today, and stay safe.
Thank you.
Hezbollah fired anti-tank missiles at Moshav Dovev in the Upper Galilee, injuring 6 civilians severely. In response, IDF forces utilized artillery to target its origins and attacked in Lebanon. The IDF continues to severely punish Hezbollah for cross-border provocations on the Lebanese-Israeli border. Defense Minister Gallant warned that Hezbollah was close to crossing a line of no return. And more in this report by ILTV's Steve Leibovich.
4 IDF soldiers were seriously wounded on the northern border over the weekend. 3 soldiers were wounded when an anti-tank guided missile launched by Hezbollah terrorists from Lebanon hit an army post near the northern community of Menara. A 4th was injured when an explosive-laden drone struck soldiers in the Upper Galilee near Kibbutz Kabri. 1 drone was shot down by Iron Dome air defense, and a 3rd crashed harmlessly in an open area. Hezbollah claimed responsibility for the attacks. Hezbollah leader Nasrallah made another speech from his Beirut bunker and said the attacks would continue.
وهيدا نحن يوم بيوم نتطلع نقيم ننظر ونقرر ونعمل وستبقى هذه الجبهة إن شاء الله جبهة ضاغطة.
In response to the latest provocations, the IDF carried out punishing attacks against Hezbollah sites in southern Lebanon. The IDF shelled a Hezbollah anti-tank guided missile squad preparing to carry out an attack near the northern village of Arab al-Aramsha. The army also hit military positions, a weapons warehouse, and an intelligence site. At least 70 Hezbollah members have been killed by Israeli forces during a month of cross-border fighting. 2 Israeli civilians and 6 soldiers have been killed in the terrorist attacks. Defense Minister Gallant warned that the terrorist group is close to making a grave mistake that will end with Beirut residents fleeing their homes.
וחיזבאללה גורר את לבנון למלחמה שעלולה לקרות, והוא עושה טעויות. אם הוא יעשה טעויות מהסוג הזה כאן, מי שישלם את המחיר זה קודם כל אזרחי לבנון. מה שאנחנו עושים בעזה אנחנו יודעים לעשות בביירות.
Hezbollah has conducted daily assaults on Israel's northern border from Lebanon, but has stopped short of launching a full-scale campaign. Israel is trying to avoid actions that would escalate the conflict into a second front in the war, but is also running out of patience.
Experience the power of truth with ILTV News. If you're looking for quality content and captivating visuals, join our news community and become an integral part of our team as we embark on a mission to unveil the real Israel, dismantling the web of lies and misinformation that surround reporting on Israel. By subscribing to ILTV News, you will not only have access to the latest updates, but you will also amplify our message, creating a ripple effect that carries the truth far and wide. Subscribe today and help reshape the narrative. Available on the web, Android, and Apple.
French President Emmanuel Macron, who recently expressed unwavering support for Israel during his visit earlier this month, now strongly criticized the country's actions in an interview with the BBC. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu didn't stay silent, and ILTV's William Sharon has more.
In an interview with BBC, French President Emmanuel Macron, after showing France's unwavering support while visiting Israel earlier this month, now strongly condemns Israel's actions.
But day one, we say that this reaction and the fight against terrorism, because it is led by a democracy, should be compliant with international rules, rule of war and humanitarian international law. And day after day, what we saw is a permanent bombing of civilians in Gaza. I think this is the only solution we have, this ceasefire. Because it's impossible to explain we want to fight against terrorism by killing innocent people.
However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu countered Macron's stance, placing the blame on Hamas for civilian casualties, accusing them of using human shields and committing crimes against humanity. Netanyahu asserted that Hamas was cruelly holding hostages, including women, children, and elderly, and using schools, mosques, and hospitals as terror command centers. Macron suggested that the large-scale bombing of Gaza was creating resentment and negative sentiments in the Middle East. He urged more diplomatic approach, emphasizing the need for a ceasefire to safeguard the lives of civilians. As part of his commitment to combating terrorism, Macron proposed expanding the international coalition against the Islamic State to also include efforts against Hamas. France previously supported a non-binding UN General Assembly resolution on October 27th, urging an immediate ceasefire without mentioning Hamas specifically.
A concerning emergency Arab Islamic summit in Saudi Arabia demanded an immediate ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Iranian President Raisi was there calling for the destruction of the State of Israel, while most pushed for humanitarian aid and a halt in fighting. And ILTV's Devo Klein reports.
Iranian President Raisi made no secret of his position, calling for the complete destruction of Israel, speaking at the Emergency Gaza War Islamic Arab Summit in Saudi Arabia. The solution, said Raisi, is a Palestinian state from the river to the sea. He praised the Hamas attack on Israel and blamed the war on the U.S.
يجب علينا أن نقبل أيدي وأذرع المقاومة والحماس.
اون که جلوی آتش بس رو گرفته امریکایی‌ها هستن. اون که داره دامنه جنگ رو توسعه میده امریکایی‌ها هستن. ریشه همه این مفاسد امریکایی‌ها هستن.
Saudi Arabia gathered the Arab and Muslim leaders on Saturday to discuss the war with the hosts, pressing the United States and Israel for an end to hostilities. Saudi Arabia's de facto ruler Prince Mohammed bin Salman met Iranian President Raisi in the first meeting of the Middle East heavyweights since the start of the war. The Iranian leader committed to Israel's destruction and the Saudi Arabian leader to normalization with the Jewish state.
وندين ما يشهده قطاع غزة من اعتداء عسكري واستهداف المدنيين واستمرار انتهاكات سلطة الاحتلال الإسرائيلية للقانون الدولي الإنساني لنؤكد ضرورة وقف هذه الحرب والتهجير القسري وتهيئة الظروف لعودة الاستقرار وتحقيق السلام في أفريقيا، وذلك عبر تدشين مشروعات وبرامج مائية في دول القارة بقيمة تتجاوز $1 مليار.
Prime Minister Netanyahu rejected the notion of a ceasefire.
לא נעצור עד השלמת המשימה. המלחמה נגד חמאס דאעש מתקדמת במלוא עוצמתה, ויש לה מטרה אחת: לנצח.
Yes, and joining us now to speak about the diplomatic front in Israel is dealing with is Neta Bar, editor and correspondent at Israel Hayom Foreign Desk. Neta, let's begin with the emergency Arab Islamic Summit in Saudi Arabia that took place over the weekend. What were the main takes from there? Let me guess, there wasn't any nice talk or support for Israel.
No, not a lot of nice talk, but there was actually one very interesting call from the Saudi from Mohammed bin Salman from Saudi Arabia, who called for the immediate release of all the hostages, of all of Hamas hostages. And there was something that is very strange and hard to see, is that a handshake between the Saudi between bin Salman and the president of Iran. It's something that never happened in the last decade.
Yes, Iran-Saudi Arabia relations. Now, another disappointment came from the direction of the French President Emmanuel Macron, who, after his unwavering support, did not fail to criticize, to condemn Israel's actions. What lies behind this, and what are your thoughts on Netanyahu's response this time?
Well, I think that Macron got a little bit scared from what he saw on the streets of Paris and in the streets of Europe. He understands that there is a growing pressure from either the left or Muslim communities within Europe to have a ceasefire to stop the bombings in Gaza. And he acted like any other European leader that we've seen in the last decade reacts to Israeli military operation. It was predictable, and it was said, and it was even sadder after the events of the 7th of October. I think Netanyahu's response is quite on point, and it's very clear now that Israel will not stop at the first sight of criticism. That it will take whatever window of opportunity it has, and to continue as much as it can the military operation in Gaza. What we see is pretty cruel. We see a lot of leaks from the Arab side, like there's a negotiation to release 100 prisoners. Nothing is really something you can corroborate in any way. There's no official talk of any sorts of agreements or progress. So I think talking about it might just giving false hope to the families of the hostages, and I think it needs to stop.
Yes, Neta, what can the state of Israel do better on the diplomatic front to get our story out there? The Israeli narrative is definitely not the one controlling the world, unfortunately, not even near.
Well, I think what we can do is that we have a lot of very talented Israelis, and I think the government should find a way to support them online and help them spread their message, maybe in a form of formal cooperation between the government and like all our net stars. There's a lot we can do in the Hasbara sort of front, but I think that basically is to understand that the world doesn't like what Israel does, or at least part of it doesn't like what Israel does, and Israel needs to do what it needs to do regardless of what the world thinks.
Yes, can I just ask, what do you think that is doing what we need to do? How do you see a functional Hasbara actually helping us?
I think it helps to convince the quiet masses of the West, like in the United States, Canada, Europe. It helps to convince the people who will not go out on the street but will vote in the next election to be more, to have a more positive image of Israel's fight against Hamas, to have a more positive image of Israel really defending itself and not some sort of aggressor or invader. But I think really in reality, what Israel needs to do is to remove Hamas's control from the Gaza Strip, whatever the criticism might be.
Yes, approximately the 70% we still can't convince. Nita, thank you so much for joining us today. Over the weekend, the IDF announced the deaths of 5 soldiers during fighting in the northern Gaza Strip. Major Reserves Moshe Yedidia Leiter, 39, company commander in the 551 Brigade from Insurim. Sergeant Major Reserves Yossi Herskovich, 44, soldier in the 551 Brigade from Gvaot. Master Sergeant Reserves Matan Meir, 38, soldier in the 551 Brigade from Odem. Master Sergeant Reserve Sergei Shmerkin, 32, soldier in the 551 Brigade from Kiryat Shmona. And Master Sergeant Reserves Netanel Arush, 34, soldier in the Givati Brigade's logistics unit from Jerusalem. The first 4 were killed by a blast from a booby-trapped tunnel shaft next to a mosque in the Bet Hanun area. The troops were not inside the tunnel. Their deaths bring the toll of slain soldiers in Israel's ground operation in the Gaza Strip to 42. And one hostage's story a day, the Regev family from Herzliya is facing an unimaginable nightmare as their children, 18-year-old Itai and 21-year-old Maya, were abducted from the Nova Desert Rave on October 7th. The family returned from a 3-week trip to Mexico just the night before, where they celebrated their mother's birthday. Maya's last communication during the attack conveyed the severity of the situation, with her shouting, "I'm being shot at, I'm dead," despite initial hope that the siblings were hiding. A video surfaced showing at least one of them in the van of their kidnappers on the way to Gaza. Baruch Dayan Emet, and bring them home now. In last night's demonstration at the Tel Aviv's Hostages Square, thousands rallied in support of families demanding the return of 239 hostages held in Gaza, drawing attention to the distressing 37 days where not a single person from the Red Cross has been allowed to visit. And ILTV's William Sharon with the powerful images.
Honestly, I don't think any other country in the world would have that. Women, children, babies, civilians, innocents who are being kept as hostages in Gaza right now. And for 35 days, not one person from the Red Cross has been allowed to visit with them and let us know that they're okay and give us a sign of life from any of them.
A powerful demonstration unfolded at Tel Aviv's Hostage Square on Saturday evening, drawing thousands in support of families demanding the return of 239 hostages. Former President Reuven Rivlin and renowned singer Shlomo Artzi participated, emphasizing the urgent need for global intervention. Exclusive reports from N12 revealed that the families are gearing up to file a lawsuit, with the details currently taking shape. Rivlin addressed leaders worldwide, urging them to act decisively and obtain information for the release of the hostages. He also criticized the Red Cross for not pressuring Hamas to allow visits to all abductees. Moreover, the families formed plans to sue senior Hamas officials, accusing them of war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity. The group has gathered evidence, including digital documentation and videos, to support their case. Reports suggest collaboration with nations impacted, such as the US, Germany, and France, to initiate economic sanctions. This week's protest will center on women in captivity, strategically aiming to garner support from women's organizations worldwide. We have to bring them home now.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Mostly cloudy skies are expected tonight throughout the country, with light showers in the north and temperatures reaching lows of 19 degrees Celsius or 66 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow, cloudy skies and temperatures climbing to 28 degrees Celsius or 83 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's all for today's news. For more updates from Israel on all your devices, check out our ILTV channel, subscribe to our ILTV newsletter, and of course, do not forget to check out our new and improved website, ILTV.tv, with all of the latest news from the heart of the State of Israel. I'm Amit Harari. Stay safe, and thank you so much for watching.